23, 2016, Kayle dressed up in a black dress and brown boots to attend a bachelorette party in downtown Bend. Her friends and boyfriend would later remember the green purse she had been carrying that night. When Kayle headed out that hot summer night, no one could have predicted she would not return home. Several bars and a few drinks later, Kayle's friends spotted her dancing with a man who was not her boyfriend. At 4 minutes past midnight, she contacted Cameron asking him to pick her up. When he arrived, they fought in the car. Cameron was worried about Kayle's reckless behavior. The day before, she had texted her father saying she'd been busy trying to figure things out and that she was in a bit of a hole. The fight escalated, and when the couple arrived at their apartment at 12:14 a.m., Cameron suggested Kayle take some time to cool off. He went upstairs to wait at their apartment while Kayle took a walk, something she had done countless times before when things had gotten heated. It was a safe neighborhood. He had no reason to think she wouldn't be back a few minutes later, calmer and ready to talk things through. But by 12:24 a.m., Kayle had not returned. Worried, Cameron went downstairs to look for her. She was not there, and at 12:30 he texted her asking, "Where are you? Please come home and talk to me." They argued over text for a while before he said, "Please don't do this to me. I apologize for being upset when I picked you up. I just drove up and down College Way really slow. I didn't see you, and I didn't know where else to go. Just come back." He was searching for her desperately now, but she did not want to talk to him. Her last message to him at 1 a.m. read, "Are you kidding? Because that's BS. Goodbye. Phone off." He replied, "Kayle, please." Cameron did not find Kayle that night despite trawling the roads near the couple's apartment. Eventually, he had to assume she was taking the night to cool off. Reluctantly heading home, he expected to hear from her in the morning. But the reconciliation he was desperately hoping for was destined never to happen. On the morning of July 24th, Cameron woke up to Kayle's side of the bed still worryingly empty. At 9 a.m., he tried to call her, but she did not pick up. He went to her friend's house, hoping Kayle had gone there to stay the night. However, Julie told police Kayle had a history of epilepsy, suggesting she was an at-risk person. This meant that the police might treat her case with urgency rather than waiting a day or two for Kayle to return of her own accord.
How can I help you?
Kayle had had just one seizure many years earlier, and the condition was well managed. But Julie felt no guilt about exaggerating. She knew in her gut that something sinister had happened to her daughter. The first 48 hours are the most critical for locating a missing person. Julie's mother's instinct told her something was very wrong. As the search for Kayle Sawyer continued, Julie would sadly be proven right. The police talked to Kayle's family, friends, and Cameron. As her boyfriend and someone who had rowed with Kayle the night of her disappearance, Cam was under the spotlight. But officers soon ruled him out. Lieutenant Devin Lewis believed that Cam truly had no idea where she was. Next, they spoke to the stranger Kayle had danced with in the bar. Had she snuck back to meet him after her fight with Cameron? It was a tantalizing theory. The man admitted to flirting with Kayle, but he insisted he hadn't seen her again after she left the bar. With no leads and no firm suspects, the police were stumped. Perhaps Kayle's disappearance really was her own choice. Was she taking a few days away to figure things out as she'd told her father? The test, they decided, would be to wait and see if she showed up for work the next day. Dedicated to her job as a dental assistant, if Kayle had missed a day, the police and her loved ones could be sure that she was in trouble. As the morning of Monday, the 25th of July dawned, so did the horrible realization that Kayle was still missing. That very same morning, another Oregon woman woke up to a horrifying revelation. Isabel Ponce Lara was a rookie cop who had spent an ordinary weekend with her husband, Edward Lara. Lara was a security guard for Central Oregon Community College. He'd got home in the early hours of Sunday morning from working his night shift as a campus safety officer. They went to church together, where he seemed quiet and showed her less affection than normal. She asked him what was wrong, but he didn't explain. She guessed it was just the normal stress from work and didn't question him further. They stopped by Pizza Hut and watched Netflix at home. Then, he suggested they go out to see a movie in Bend. The only strange detail she noticed, other than him being withdrawn, was that he had the windows on the car cracked open.
This whole time up to when you're going to the movie, anything stand out to you?
You know what I just thought about right now? He had the windows cracked open. He never did that.
Okay.
And I asked him about that, and he said, oh, it's hot.
The next day, however, things changed. She suspected nothing wrong until he disrupted their morning routine. He painted a vivid picture of guilt and panic, describing to his wife a horrific accident. He claimed that he accidentally hit a woman with his campus security car. He had panicked and had hidden her body. Isabel was confused. Why would someone hide the evidence of a tragic accident? After he had confessed to his wife, Edwin took her service weapon and drove off, leaving her to worry that he might do something to hurt himself. At 11:52 a.m. on Monday, July 25th, she took her fears to the police. Following up on Edwin's claims, the police searched the couple's property. They discovered a trash bag of female belongings in Laura's shed, just as he had told Isabel. These included a green purse soaked in blood, containing an ID card belonging to none other than missing woman Kayle Sawyer. They also found bloodied clumps of blonde hair and a rock, also stained with blood. The police already had reason to doubt Laura's story, as his wife had. One lieutenant said, "Some people leave the scene of accidents because they're scared, but they return a short time later," or something like that. But that's not what Ed did. And here in Laura's shed was evidence to suggest his car was not all that it hit Kayle with. The red-stained rock was bagged as a potential murder weapon, and the disappearance of Kayle Sawyer had suddenly become a murder inquiry. The main suspect was nowhere to be found, but in the shed was further evidence of the macabre and troubled mind that could have committed such a crime. Laura had studied criminal justice. Propped against the wall of the shed was a college psychology project, a graphic informational poster on the Railroad Killer. The Railroad Killer was a Mexican serial killer active in the 1990s. He was a drifter hopping trains to avoid detection as he murdered at least 15 people across the United States and Mexico. Laura's poster was smeared with red paint to mimic blood spatter and handprints, along with graphic images of victims' bodies. The Railroad Killer's weapon of choice was whatever came closest to hand, including heavy rocks. It was a chilling parallel with the way police now believed Kayle Sawyer might have died, and a hint of her suspected killer's fascination with murder. Police returned to Isabel to learn more about Edwin Lara's character. They asked if he was a drinker, had anger issues, or had ever been violent. She told them that she and her husband had stopped drinking when they went back to church, and that Lara had never been violent towards her. However, Lara had been having an affair. He had family in California and had been seeing a woman there while Isabel was in the police academy. According to Isabel, he had begged for her forgiveness, and they were working through it. Lara's co-workers told a more sinister story. At work, in security at the community college, he had showed nude photos of himself and his mistress to his colleagues and reportedly had a fascination with dead bodies. This made one female cadet so uncomfortable that she refused to ride in a car with him. Isabel, however, wanted to keep him close. After she learned about the affair, she went on several ride-alongs with Lara at his work. He usually drove around alone in the campus security car. He showed his wife areas around town that were out of the way, hidden from public view. He knew the back roads of the area intimately. By this point, the police knew that they were looking for Kayle's body, and with this new information, it was clear he could have hidden her anywhere. It was a lead on locating her remains, but even more urgent was finding the killer himself, and the police had no idea where he could have fled to. Edwin Lara knew he was in trouble. The story he had told Isabel was not holding up, and even if the police had believed it, he'd still be guilty of a crime. He went on the run, and his desperate attempts to remain free led to a crime spree that sowed terror across 2 states. The first person to fall victim to Laura's murderous desperation was 19-year-old Andrea Mays. Andrea was working at a Ross Dress for Less in Salem, Oregon, a town a few hours northeast of Bend. At 8:45 p.m. after a 12-hour shift, she got into her car and relaxed for a moment on social media. She took a selfie to post on Snapchat and was reading a Facebook message from a friend when Edwin Lara decided to make her his next victim. Edwin was armed with his wife's gun, carrying a backpack, and wearing a bulletproof vest. He shoved his arm through the open window of Andrea's car and demanded that she take him where he wanted to go at gunpoint. Fearing for her life, she had no choice but to do as he said. He told her he had been waiting in the parking lot for a while, waiting for a woman he could carjack. He had spoken to a pregnant woman who had brushed him off, boasting to Andrea, "Little does she know what I could have done to her." He claimed to be a cop, telling Andrea, "I don't know if you heard what happened to the girl I just killed." Gone was the tearful demeanor he had displayed for his wife. His violence was now a source of notoriety and even pride. After an hour, Lara told Andrea to pull over because she was driving too fast. He handcuffed her to the gear shift and drove himself, terrified that he would be stopped for speeding. They continued for several hours until they reached a motel in Southern Oregon. He forced her to pretend to be his girlfriend, holding her hand, threatening that he'd kill both her and the motel clerk if she didn't act as though everything was fine. She'd visibly begun crying, but the motel clerk noticed nothing wrong and allowed them to check in to the motel. In the motel room, he handcuffed her to the bed frame and forced her to swallow sleeping pills. She tried her hardest to stay awake, terrified that he would assault her while she slept. Suddenly, her phone alarm sounded. Lara panicked, sure someone was calling Andrea to find out where she was. She thought quickly. She told him she had an STI and that the alarm was to remind her to take her medication. After that, he didn't touch her, but he did become increasingly paranoid about helicopters being sent to find him. He left the motel, taking Andrea with him as a human shield. She was out in the open once again, but was Andrea any safer from assault or even murder at the hands of her abductor? They were soon to meet Edwin Lara's third victim. Andrea's car was leaking oil, so Lara decided they needed to steal a new one. In the parking lot of a new motel in Wairika, California, a wildlife photographer named Jack Levy was loading up his car. He was in the area to take photographs of butterflies. With his hostage Andrea in tow, Lara burst into Levy's room, demanding the man's car keys, but Levy refused, instead yelling for help. Desperate to avoid detection and with nothing left to lose, Edwin Lara shot Levy in the abdomen. As Levy fell to the ground, Lara fled with Andrea, dragging her on foot to a nearby gas station. In need of new wheels to continue his getaway, Lara targeted a family parked there. 17-year-old Nima Gavini and his grandmother and younger brother. Lara threw Andrea into the car and then carjacked Nima at gunpoint, saying, "Drive or I'll shoot." Nima, scared for the lives of himself and his family, drove. As they drove, Lara engaged his victims in a bizarre conversation. He asked them if they had ever had an urge to kill. He blamed his own urge for what he had done. 15 minutes later, he released the terrified family, though Andrea remained in his grasp. His behavior became increasingly erratic.
All right, so that's all I wanted to say.
Do you
I don't
need any kind of medical or?
Yeah, well, I think so. I'm gonna need my inhaler. I forgot my inhaler at home.
And how fast are you going?
I'm going about 120 miles an hour
About
right now.
120 miles an hour?
Yeah.
Can you slow down?
Well, I want to make it there quick. That way I can turn myself in.
Well, the officer sees you with it. We just don't want you to speed away from anything. If you can stop and just give yourself in, it'll probably be easier.
Well, there's an officer behind me right now.
Okay, they see you. We're talking to them. They see you.
Yeah, she's seeing me. I think it's a she. She's right behind me.
Okay, the officer sees you. And are you able to safely stop?
Yeah, I can stop, but not right now. I'll stop in Corning.
What's the difference of stopping now in Corning?
I just don't want to stop right here in the middle of the road, you know, putting myself in danger and putting everybody else in danger, more in danger, I guess.
You know, they won't. They're aware. I'll let them know they won't. But if you can stop safely, they just don't want you to run. They think you're going to run or anything.
Okay. Yeah.
And would you have any weapons with you?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I do have a gun on me. I am not going to flash the gun, so you tell them not to shoot me.
Okay.
No, I don't want to die.
Okay, you stick by your word, though. I'll let them know.
Yeah, I'm going to let them know. You know, don't hurt Andrea. You know, she's a nice girl. You know, don't hurt her. I'm actually calling my family just to say bye to them. So once I'm done calling on my family, then I'll turn myself in.
Okay, we can get hold of your family if you want.
I already called my wife. I called a lot of people already. I am wanted for the death of Kayle Sawyer at Bend, Oregon. I just want to say that it was an accident. So I work for campus public safety there, and she was really drunk, and I didn't see her, and I run her over.
Okay.
And then after that, you know, I just she was still breathing, and then she was screaming, and I decided to silence her forever. Just, you know, I know this is being recorded, and you know, I just want to say to the family of Kayle that, you know, I am sorry. I am sorry for what I did to her, and in time I will tell them where the body is. You know, I will just, that way she can rest in peace. You know.
Do you want to let me know, or just have this recorded where it is?
No, I remember.
Okay.
So, I mean, hopefully the police officer doesn't shoot me, you know, and I'll survive, you know.
Yeah.
He tried to use both Andrea and his knowledge of Kaylee's whereabouts as leverage to protect himself.
Hello?
Yeah, hi, Andrea. Are you okay? You don't need any medical or anything?
No.
Okay, so, Edwin, where's his gun at? Does he have it still between his legs?
I don't know.
Can you see it? You said he had it between his legs. Is he stopping?
Yeah.
He is stopping?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, make sure your hands are up too and stuff. I know you're on the phone right now, but just hold your hand up so they can see your hands too.
Okay.
I'm going to stay on the line with you until the officers get there, okay? And you're going to be okay. Andrea?
Mm-hmm.
Does he have his hands up?
Yeah.
He does have his hands up? Okay. Just tell him to make sure that the officers...
Hey, who are you? Tell him I can't.
He said he can't hear.
Do I get out or do I?
Tell him we're letting the officers know that he can't hear.
He's already walking towards them.
He's walking towards them. Tell him to make sure he holds his hands up.
Yeah, he is.
He is. Tell him to turn around and I'll walk towards him. He can walk backwards towards him.
I can't. He's too far.
Okay. And if you want to do the same, once he gets out stuff, just turn around and walk backwards towards him. Don't walk facing him.
Okay. Do I stay on the line with you?
Once you get out, I'll go ahead and disconnect the line. Once you get out, can you see it? Do they have him in custody already?
They're putting the cuffs on him right now.
Put the cuffs on him?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to hang up and just get out and you walk backwards towards him with your hands up, okay?
Okay.
Okay, Andrea, it's going to be okay.
Finally, the operator convinced him that the police would not hurt him. So he stopped his car, and at 7:01 a.m. Tuesday, July 26th, he was taken into custody. After a terrifying crime spree across 2 states and nearly 24 hours, 5 of his 6 victims were alive to tell the tale. Jack Levy was in hospital in critical condition, but he would go on to make a full recovery. Kayle Sawyer had not been so lucky.
But I want to be on it. Okay, so here's what I know about this. Hear me out, sir. We can't change what happened. The 3 of us in this room. And people will care more about what happens right now than what happened before. So we know that you've been talking to some people, et cetera, right? And because we have different jurisdictions, I can assure you that right now the DA's office is working on allowing us to take you back to Oregon, okay? But they're still working on it, okay? So in the meantime, we need to consider some things, okay? If this information gets to other people that you were like, hell yeah, I'm gonna tell you only until I get what I want, they might try to think of this about something different than what it is.
They worked to gain his trust.
'Cause I don't think you're a bad guy, right? I think that things have spun completely out of control, sir. Sir, am I right? Okay. But that being said, you know from your training and your education that we have a massive load of resources right now dedicated to one thing, and that's to serve the big folks, okay? And they need that. They need that right now. And so I need you to remember that it doesn't matter so much about what happened as what you do now.
And you know this, man.
Finally, he indicated the location on a map. Police sped toward the scene, and on July 26th, 2 days after she went missing, the body of Kayle Sawyer was discovered beside a highway in Oregon.
A tragic update to bring to you tonight in the disappearance of Bend resident Kayle Sawyer. Police now say they found a body and they believe that to be Sawyer's body. Now, Edwin Lara has been arrested yesterday in connection with this. Edwin Lara is a 31-year-old Redmond resident currently employed at CUCC working as a part-time campus public safety officer. We've recently learned that Lara's wife, Isabel Ponce Lara, as I mentioned, is a Bend police officer who yesterday morning reported her husband's potential involvement in the...
At the medical examiner's office, it was determined she had been killed by blunt force trauma. The condition of her body was so horrific that the police advised her family not to look at the autopsy photos. In a car Lara had abandoned in Salem moments before kidnapping Andrea, the police discovered 2 notes. In chilling handwriting, Lara had described where he'd killed her and written another note that read, "This note is to say I'm sorry for taking her life." To her dad, I'm sorry. To her mom, I'm sorry. It was an accident. She screamed and I had to silence her. My intention was not forever. To my wife, I'm sorry. I will forever love you. The evidence painted a conflicting picture. He was unquestionably guilty of murder, but he was displaying pride as well as remorse for what he had done. The answers lay in Lara's police interview. First, he maintained the story he had told his wife, that he'd accidentally hit Kayle, who was drunk.
You know, I was in a hurry to get out. And I was going to turn south College Way on the B4 lot. So I was going to turn south on the metro area there. And I didn't see her, she was wearing all that. So I was in a hurry, so I was like, oh. And I wasn't expecting anybody, you know. I looked at the fence, so I just turned and I mean, I didn't hit her that hard. I just bumped her with the patrol car, bumped her with the front rack, and she fell down. And at first I thought, you know, I was all killed her, you know, but I didn't hit her that hard. So I got out the car, and she was really drunk. And then she looks at me, and then she started screaming. She started screaming at me. She did. So I panicked and I just grabbed her.
But detectives now knew this wasn't true. They kept pushing him for answers. He admitted to choking her to silence her. Then, he admitted to assaulting her when he thought she was already dead. He was trying to paint a picture of panic and spontaneity, but the police knew better.
So a couple things you need to understand, and we're finally getting to the real problem here, we really are, is you knew she was never getting out the car when you shut that door. Well, let me finish. You need to let me finish, right? Because I know this, okay? Because you said you were over there. She said no. Immediately you go to keeping your purse and your phone. Why didn't she was going to do that? She wasn't going to survive that kind of pushing.
No, it
Because
was.
you can't leave and let her live, can you?
And she can't make a phone call if you haven't.
I wasn't.
You can't let her live.
Edwin, we're missing something here, man.
Look, yeah, I know what you guys are thinking, and it makes perfect sense. It does. Because
Why would you ask? Why would you ask for her purse? What was in your head that made you want her purse?
Because
Just in case she had a gun, she could defend herself.
in case she was gonna use the phone to call 911, call for
So,
us.
but listen to this. According to your story, this is where it does not make sense. If your intent isn't already there to do some kind of harm or some kind of evil to her, some friggin' evil that's there, bro. It's there. You just gotta face it down, man. You can't cower away from it. You face that damn thing down right now. If you know the only way, if you don't have intent in her head, your thought is, I gotta keep that phone away from her because she's gonna call for help before anything bad's even happened. You've already made a decision. Am I right or am I wrong? Tell me.
So I made the decision that I decided to kill her.
Let's be real. When you say silencer, you mean kill her, then forever.
Because
When did you make that decision?
when she started screaming, because she has so many things.
But you already grabbed her phone. You already kept her away from making a call for help or contacting someone. So you're already preserving yourself. So I'm thinking it's before, when you ask for the purse, I think you already know in your head, I'm going to silence her. I'm going to kill her. Why else would you ask?
So when she gave me her, like she had her phone, because I knew her phone was back, like they just click on my head and I put push back their phones and so I told her, give me hers. So then
Tell me exactly how you said give me your purse. Say it exactly how you said it.
okay, so I want to give me your fucking purse.
Earth. Right? You know this. It's Cain and Abel. No. No. You know what it is? You need to hear it though. Okay? I respect you enough, Edwin, at this point, that I've asked you for detail, and now I'm going to give you my own. Okay? Those are the cold hard facts. Does God still love you? Will He forgive you? Will He bring you back into His heart? Will He? Questions you have to answer for yourself. But the truth of the matter is that her blood cries out, man. That her life is gone. It will never be replaced. The truth of the fact is this: what you mistook for a hooker was an absolute angel, was the apple of her mom and dad's eye, was the breath that they breathed, that they spent and cultivated all their life raising and growing, and she is gone forever.
Finally, Lara cracked. He confessed to the horror that lay inside him, the urge to kill.
Is this addressed to Dad?
Yeah, that's one of his first.
Okay. I think it would play pretty well on recording if we read this out loud. It might show some of your emotion. Might show. I would love you to read it. Thank you, sir.
I've been trying to ask Katie for forgiveness. I haven't been. Her soul hears my crying because God doesn't allow the devil to talk to angels. However, I know Katie hears you, and if you find it within your heart, please ask her to forgive me. I know that I will spend the rest of my life asking God to forgive me. But I think He will. Sir, this is ready to God. I'm not sure what your name is, but I know for a fact that you love your God. I read something that you were desperately looking for her with that touch, the little heart I have within me. The same little heart, a little bit, because a man like me don't have a heart. A man like me doesn't deserve the job I had, and I will never have it again. The COCC never has to pay for my evil doing. We officer on the campus are great man and woman. I am sorry to my community. I am sorry because I failed you. I am sorry for wearing the badge.
In the early hours of July 24th, Kayle Sawyer had walked away from the apartment she shared with her boyfriend and came upon Lara's campus security SUV. Labeled for public safety in a peaceful town like Bend, she would not have felt afraid getting into the car. It's unknown why she did, but it was the last tragic decision she would ever make. Inside, Lara propositioned her, offering her money. When she refused, he took her purse and phone. The car was the only car in the campus security fleet to be equipped with an interior cage like a police car. She could not escape. Instead, she was helpless when Lara choked her into unconsciousness before driving her to one of the dark, less traveled back roads he was familiar with from his work. When she woke up again and tried desperately to attract attention, screaming and shouting, there was no one around to hear her. Still, Lara choked her out again to silence her. Then, he smashed a rock into her head and assaulted her, believing she was dead. He hit her again and again until he'd killed her. And then, he left to clean himself of evidence before throwing her body in a ditch. Kayle Sawyer had been robbed of her life by a man who had given in to his most evil impulses. All that remained was to get justice for her murder. Prosecutors faced an obstacle. Lara's disturbing confession was ruled inadmissible because of a misunderstanding around whether he'd been offered a lawyer or not. But even without the confession, the physical evidence and witnesses were undeniable.
Number one, to have our Kayle back with us, alive and well, and pursuing her life. Number two, I wish to have this piece of garbage, the defendant, sentenced to death for what he's done to my Kayle. And number three, I wish the court system in the state of Oregon would just hand him over to me and allow me to administer the death sentence.
In January 2018, Edwin Lara pled guilty to aggravated murder and grand robbery and was sentenced to life without parole.
Today, seeing pain. Today, seeing your name. I don't have much to say to you this moment. I'll have a simple prayer. Something I'd like to speak to whoever's willing to listen. God Almighty, who art in heaven, although he was denied.
In 2019, he was handed a second life sentence for the kidnapping and carjacking of Andrea Mays. He had committed awful crimes without any reason other than the urge to do it. Who knows what further evils he might have done if he hadn't been stopped by the efforts of Andrea, Isabel, and the 911 operator who convinced him to turn himself in. In 2019, the Oregon legislature passed Kayle's Law. This law, campaigned for by Kayle's family, was intended to ensure such a horrible fate could never befall another young person trusting that campus security would keep them safe. Lara had displayed several signs that he was dangerous, and his employers had done nothing about it, allowing him to continue to drive the vehicle with which he posed as a police officer. Kayle's Law ensures that campus security in Oregon can never be mistaken for police again, and that someone like Edwin Lara will not be in a position of trust, abused for the